Hey everyone, I'm Mindy Wood from Our Inspired Roots, and I'm here with Amber Bradshaw. For those of you who don't know Amber, she is a homesteader and blogger at myhomesteadlife.com and thefarmerslamp.com, and she focuses on homesteading and off-grid living. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Amber.
Thanks for having me. It's a joy to be here.
So let's jump in. Can you tell me about your experience with small space gardening?
I sure can. For 25 years, we lived on a very small lot by the coast in South Carolina. Our yard was actually 85 foot wide by 148 feet deep. And we did everything we can to grow in every square inch of space we had on our property.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely something that I've learned too is just, if you can just use the space that you have, you can actually grow a lot more than you would even ever imagine. So that's great. What are your favorite plants for small spaces?
We have, well, with the small spaces, like I said, you have to use every inch that you can. So you have to think a little bit more dimensionally, not just, vertically, but you also have to think vertically, horizontally, just diagonally, everything. And so when you're using your vertical space and your horizontal space, you can grow more food that you typically wouldn't be able to grow just on the ground. So um, I love herbs. I use them for everything. I use them for cooking. I use them for cleaning. I use them for medicine. I use them for potpourri. I use them for my animals. So if I were to pick, like if you said you had a small space and you could only grow one thing, I would grow herbs because most of them are perennials. They come back year after year. They're very inexpensive to start, and they can enhance the food that you're already eating, but they're so versatile.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that herbs are great too. Really just greens in general are a great use of space, especially because they're so expensive to buy. So that's one that I always
Mm-hmm.
grow too. And one of the reasons that I was asking is that I know I've heard like kind of two different thought processes on this is that some people go with anything that's viney because you can grow it vertically, and then other people will go with anything that's like root vegetables and greens and things that are not viney because you don't have to worry about where those vines are going. So I really like your answer because it's like a whole new spin on it. So that's cool. So what is your strategy for planting in small spaces to get the highest yield?
My strategy for planting in small spaces is really you have to, well, one, you have to research your area and your growing zone. So what grows wonderful at my property in zone 8B, well, now I'm in 7B, but might not grow really well in your zone for 6C. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first thing that you have to do when taking anybody's advice is seeing if their advice matches up with your planting zone. The second thing is your there's a couple of different topics that you need to touch about. One is rotational gardening, which means if you're planting carrots in that space right now, then right after the carrots are harvested, then you could start planting more of your cool weather crops like your lettuce or your kale or something like that, and using that space for that same space for different types of plants. Two is finding out the nutritional needs for that item. For instance, if you have something that is really likes acidic soil, you don't want to plant something in there right that likes the alkaline soil in that same space. So many people fail at gardening because they're just not privy to that information that would help them be successful gardeners. It has nothing to do with the actual plant itself, but it's just poor preparation and execution.
Right. So yeah, so kind of just knowing what you really like, kind of drilling down to what those individual plants need and being more aware of those needs.
Exactly. And then, yeah, and planting something, successional planting. So if you're planting something right now, because right now we're still in a colder zone or a colder climate, and it's getting ready to be spring. So planting something right now that I can quickly harvest for the cold climate, which would be like my lettuce, my spinach, and getting ready to put tomatoes in that same space as soon as I harvest my lettuce helps me really take advantage of that small space and maximize that growing potential for that square inch of soil.
Yeah. And have you used vertical gardening? Do you use that at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. So on our small land, and I gave you the dimensions earlier, that 85 by 148, we did raised bed gardens. We did vertical gardening with trellises. We did vertical gardening with fence posts. I even grew, we had a arbor with a swing, and I grew kiwi on that and grapes on all three sides. And then we also did the pallet gardening, which we, did the free pallets and did that. We had a small flat space that we did the traditional row gardening. We also did aeroponics, which is like hydroponics and aquaponics, but it circulated the air and the water around it. They were in tower gardens that we had. We did a lot of gardening in plants and pots. The only type that we didn't do that I wanted to do there was our rooftop gardening.
Oh,
And that was we didn't accomplish the rooftop garden because it needed more structure to support the weight of the soil, and we just didn't get to it.
that would be really cool. I'd love to see something like that.
Oh gosh, yeah. I actually visited some gardens that were supported by the state. They were nonprofit. They were learning gardens for the extension agencies and local colleges, and they did a bunch of rooftop gardens, and they're gorgeous. And that's just another example of using the space that you have. But there's steps. I mean, you just don't want to go ahead and throw some some soil on your roof without putting your rubber membrane down. Make sure you have good drainage and make sure that your roof can support the weight of all that soil. So, yeah, there's definitely, I said you can't grow out, grow up. So, for instance, you were asking if I did vertical gardening. I would at the base put a melon or a vining green bean or even a vining spinach, because there was a vining spinach that we had. And then below that, do my root vegetables. So you could do you could do an indeterminate tomato that vines for 12 foot, and below that put your carrots in that same space. So you're multifunctioning that space.
If you're watching this video on YouTube, the full version will be in the Our Inspired Roots Academy, which I'll put a link to in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.